The snow had been falling since 4 a.m. By 7, Manhattan wore it like something heavy. Not decorative punishing, the kind of snowfall that turns taxi headlights into blurred halos and makes the whole city go quiet in a way that feels less like peace and more like warning. Evelyn Carter arrived at Orion Global's Midtown Tower at 6:47 a.m. She rode the elevator alone. 28th floor. She did not look at her phone. She had already read the morning's messages 3 times in the car. And reading them a 4th time would not change what they said. The last interpreter had canceled at 6:22 a.m. A traffic accident on the Triborough Bridge. He was fine. The situation was not. She set her bag on the desk in her corner office and stood at the window for exactly 40 seconds. Below, the city crawled. Cabs fishtailed through slush. A delivery van was double-parked on 47th Street, with its hazards blinking. Someone in a yellow raincoat was trying to cross against the light. Evelyn turned away from the window. The deal had taken 9 months to structure. 240 days of calls, term sheets, due diligence reviews, and alignment meetings across 6 time zones. The principles involved 6 separate delegations: the UAE Sovereign Wealth Consortium, a Japanese infrastructure group, a French energy firm, the Korean state-backed technology fund, a German engineering conglomerate, and the Brazilian logistics operator whose regional concessions were the backbone of the whole arrangement. Combined, they represented $2.4 billion in committed capital. Their legal teams had signed NDAs. Their executives had flown overnight. Their assistants had already confirmed morning pickup times. The deal was called the Meridian Framework. It was the largest infrastructure financing arrangement Orion Global had ever structured. It would, if it closed, establish the company as a serious player in multilateral capital markets, not just a mid-size advisory firm in a crowded field. And it required simultaneous interpretation across 6 languages, with legal precision, in real time. 16 interpreters had been on the confirmed list as of Monday. By Thursday morning, they were gone. 11 had dropped over the past 4 days for various reasons: illness, a competing engagement, a miscommunication about rate and availability, one who turned out to have no actual certification in Arabic legal register, despite a confident LinkedIn profile. 2 more had canceled Wednesday evening. The 16th, the one Evelyn had personally confirmed Tuesday night, had slid into the Triborough Bridge barrier at 6:19 a.m. and was sitting in a tow truck somewhere in Queens. Richard Blake, her COO, was waiting in the hallway when she stepped out of her office. He was 51 and had the look of a man who had long ago made peace with delivering bad news efficiently. He was holding a printed list. 16 names. All crossed out. "We need to reschedule," he said. "No, Evain." They flew in from 5 countries, Richard. The Korean delegation landed at JFK at midnight. Khalid Al-Nahyan's office confirmed he boarded his flight before we even knew about the interpreter situation. If we reschedule, we lose the alignment. 2 of these delegations have competing term sheet discussions next week. Then we lose the deal anyway. Without competent interpretation, find someone. I've called every agency in the tri-state area, simultaneously. 4 agencies. This morning. And the ones with the right language combination don't have legal certification. The ones with legal certification don't have all 6 languages. No one has all 6. The best offer I've gotten is a team of 3 who can cover Japanese, French, and German. But their Arabic is, how bad? Richard paused. They misidentified Gulf Arabic as Levantine in the screening call. Evelyn said nothing. "I think we reschedule," Richard said. "Frame it as Orion being thorough, sensitive to the complexity of the arrangement. We take 2 weeks, and of times. Set up the room," Evelyn said. 8:30. "I'll figure something out." She went back into her office and closed the door. She did not, in fact, have a plan. At 6:51 a.m., 3 floors below in the service corridor, on the 25th floor, Daniel Hayes was pushing a cart with a mop, a bucket, and a small Bluetooth speaker playing a lecture in Farsi. He was 41, 6 feet even, lean in the way of a man who walked everywhere and ate without thinking about it. His uniform was a faded navy blue. The name tag on his chest said Daniel in raised white letters. He had worn the same pair of scuffed work boots for 3 years and had no particular interest in replacing them. The Farsi lecture was about contract terminology in the Iranian civil code. He was on his 4th listen. His phone buzzed. "Dad, you'll pick me up at 3, right?" He typed back without stopping the cart. 3 o'clock. Front steps. Bring your spelling words. A pause. Then. I already know them. Prove it. Necessary. Necessary. He smiled at the screen, tucked the phone into his chest pocket. Paused the Farsi lecture. He pushed the cart around the corner and began working on the corridor near the elevator bank. The floors up here were marble, a different grade than the lobby. A shade warmer, harder to buff without leaving streaks if you used the wrong pressure. He knew the difference. He had learned it in his first 2 weeks here, the same way he had learned which offices kept their doors open and which ones had people who worked past midnight, the same way he learned everything, by paying attention until he understood it completely. On the shelf below the cart, folded neatly inside a rubber band, was a small notebook, brown cover, water-stained on the lower right corner. Inside, in handwriting so small it required some effort to read, were vocabulary lists in 9 languages, legal terms, diplomatic registers, idiomatic expressions that didn't translate cleanly, and required judgment calls rather than direct equivalents. He did not open it this morning. He didn't need to. The elevator opened. A woman in a charcoal coat stepped out quickly, already looking at her phone, and walked directly into the cart. The bucket lurched. Water sloshed over the rim and spread in a slow fan across the marble. The woman glanced down at the wet floor, then up at Daniel, then back down. Her expression was the expression of someone who has briefly registered an inconvenience and is already moving past it. She said nothing. She kept walking. Daniel watched her go for a moment. Then he got the mop and started on the floor. Besiedem 45 meters. The 28th floor had a particular quality to it, the kind of controlled tension that exists in places where large decisions are being made by people who are accustomed to solving problems but have, for the moment, run out of solutions. The boardroom had been set since 6 a.m. 6 delegation seats, each with a nameplate, a portfolio of documents, a wireless earpiece, a water glass. The interpretation equipment had been tested. The microphone array was calibrated. The translation booths at the far end of the room were lit and ready. Everything was ready, except the people who would sit in those booths and make the whole thing function. Laura Mitchell arrived at her desk in HR at 7:50 and read the situation in about 40 seconds from the look on the assistants' faces and the volume of the printer in the copy room, which was going at a rate that suggested someone was printing backup documents they didn't actually need but couldn't stop themselves from printing anyway. Laura was 44. She had been at Orion Global for 11 years. She had a reputation for knowing where things were, including things that weren't strictly her department. She was also, at this particular moment, the only person in the building who had read Daniel Hayes's complete personnel file. She had read it when he was hired, 14 months ago. She had flagged it internally with a single asterisk, her private notation for situation worth knowing about. She had not escalated it. It was not her call to make. People had the right to be what they wanted to be, and what Daniel Hayes had chosen to be, for reasons she did not fully understand but had come to respect, was quiet. She